Hello there. Welcome to Force Ghost Conversations. This podcast is your home for cozy deep dives into all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent properties. This is your host, Anthony King, and each week I will be joined by fans, creators, and believers in the principles from the galaxy far, far away to discuss the thematical elements from our favorite Lucasfilm properties. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Hey there, folks. This is Force Ghost Conversations, your home for cozy deep dives into all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent properties. And this week, we are here to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And we have the wonderful Jen Sopchockchai Bankard from the Long Take Review podcast on the show to chat all things Force Awakens and its place in history, our memories from it, the experience of seeing it, and of course, reflecting on the past 10 years since then and how the film impacted the Star Wars community and beyond. So you're in for a wonderful treat conversation here. It's going to be our kind of theme for the next 2 weeks here. And hopefully you're enjoying the holiday season and some of these great episodes as you're heading out on the road, traveling somewhere, or staying at home and you need some to distract you from anything that's going on out there. We're here for you. Just turn on some Force Ghost Conversations and you're in for some cozy goodness in this season. Now, before we get into that main episode, let's run through some news that's taken place in the Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent galaxy over the past week. And I did want to note that I did forget one bit of news in last week's episode, so I'm going to cover it now because there really isn't a whole other lot of other news out there right now. So there is a new comic announcement coming in March, or at least it's going to be in comic stores in March. This is Star Wars Shadow of Maul. It's a 5-issue comic run by Benjamin Percy and Madadek Musa Bekov. And it will serve as a prequel to Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord. Now, the first issue will go on sale on March 4th, so in just a few short months here. But it does lead some credence into the fact that I do believe that we will be getting Maul Shadow Lord in 2026. So if they're doing a 5-issue prequel run that's going to tie into it, then I think there's going to be definitely some validity to possibly it coming out in summer or fall next year. So stay on the lookout for that, and we'll of course cover more things as they come out over the next couple of months in regards to that upcoming Maul animated series. And with that, folks, that's all the news I had for this week. On the other side of the short break, we'll be back with our conversation with Jen Sopchockchai Bankard about The Force Awakens in honor of its 10th anniversary. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another installment of Force Ghost Conversations. Did you think we were done celebrating Star Wars this year? Because we certainly are not. You may have remembered from the past couple of weeks here, or even months at this point now, that we celebrated the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. But at the time that this movie came out, it was the 10th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, and now we're 10 years after that point, and we are here celebrating the 10th anniversary of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. That's an incredible thing to say. I can't even believe it. It's 10 years now, and we're actually pretty soon going to be starting to say 10 years of Rogue One and The Last Jedi and Solo and Rise of Skywalker, and wow, everything's getting a 10-year anniversary in the next couple of years here. So strap in for some fun celebrations. And we have an amazing guest here on the show today. You know her as Qui-Gon Jen. We also know her as Jen Sopchockchai Bankard from the Long Take Review. Jen, welcome back to Force Those Conversations, and how you doing?
I'm doing great, Anthony. Thanks for having me back. And thanks for giving me an excuse to both rewatch this film, because it had been a minute, I think, when you asked me to come on the show, and to just be really nostalgic about this year and this time period. What a time to be alive was
Nostalgic
2015.
for 2015. Peak millennial optimism, as I'm seeing people talk about these days online. And yeah, you're right. It was just before the times changed, as we like to say around here. There was a couple big events that happened in the world post 2015, and this was a true period of serenity, I like to say, that was both in Star Wars and just the world before the calm before the storm, as one may like to say here. But I guess the appropriate place to really start our conversation here is really by going to the beginning of the Disney acquisition of of Lucasfilm in 2012 by Disney, of course. With that came the announcement of Episode 7. So then that was the precursor to what eventually would become The Force Awakens. So, what was your initial reaction to the sale and the knowledge of like new films that were incoming?
So I was probably one of like 5 people who were actually excited about this news.
One of 5. Well, I could count me
I
in
don't
as
know.
being the other
Are there
2.
there are dozens of us.
There
Well, because
dozens.
that's yeah, well, that's not how I felt at the time, I think. But so I was a long time Disney fan. As a child, my family would drive from Boston to Orlando once every other year is probably what we averaged to go to Disney
Wow.
World.
The drive?
Um, yeah, it was intense.
Jen,
It was
that is what, 25-hour drive?
it's a whole day. It's a whole day, depending on how often you stop.
Oh.
22 hours, I think, if you don't stop,
What
is
was
what
the
I
car
remember.
I have to ask before we dive further into this because I'm perplexed. What was the car situation like? Was it
Well,
comfortable?
it was well, we had a Volvo station wagon at the
Of
time,
course.
and so I was in the, like, not a real seat, but it technically has a
Oh.
seatbelt in the way back that's out facing the other direction. At least for a little while, that's what we had. But my family was so big that we actually had 2 cars, and so it was kind of like a, uh, what's that Sesame Street movie with the racing across the country? I don't know why I'm bringing this up. What's the, it was like the race to find Big Bird, and they had like a little map of all the
I don't even
cars
know what
written.
movie
And
you're
okay,
talking about,
all
but
right,
we'll
all right.
roll with it.
I'll figure it out. And I'll text. I'll message you later with the name, and you'll be like, okay, fine. But yeah, so we would race both cars to be like, who's gonna get there first?
You were driving
And
down 95 just trying
yeah,
to, like, pass each other to stay awake.
yeah, yep. Unless you hit like New York and I think Atlanta were the 2 biggest, and DC. Those were
DC.
the
Yep,
3
yep.
biggest. Like, oh, we're stopping
Got some
to
traffic,
crawl.
guys. Yep.
Yep. So anyway, so I was already indoctrinated at an early age into the Disney parks in particular, and then now I
Mhm.
live in Southern California, so I go to Disneyland all the time. So when this
Nice.
news hit, I was like, yes, let's go. Does this mean more Star Wars and Star Wars in theme parks? That more than like I've ridden Star
Little did you
Tours
know, yeah.
so many times. Like, can we get something else, please? And so I was just really excited. Was I? If you had asked me specifically about like, is Disney going to unduly influence Lucasfilm, or is it going to be creative tension? Sure, I've been like that might be a possibility, but I think in the moment I was just kind of like, hey, like 2 of my favorite things are coming together.
Mhm, mhm. I mean, it's a big win to, like, be also, like, told, "Hey, you're getting more films." Big win on that front. There's 3 films coming, episode 7, 8, 9. And also, I like that you took the optimistic side of things and being like, "Hey, it's a worldwide conglomerate company that has other IP in their parks, and Star Tours is an ever-growing, ever-evolving machine." And, who knows what could happen? Like, you kinda had the foresight that potentially there could be what has now become Galaxy's Edge, and even the Galactic Star Cruise that was over here, and there's opportunity for a lot more future things with the Star Wars IP as time goes on, and you were on the forefront of that. I do think that there was a little bit of a healthy skepticism, I think, from folks at the time, maybe a little bit of jokes. I remember the early memes that happened when this came out, right? Um, but I think there was a bit more optimism and happiness than, let's say, arguably what current news, right? The Warner Brothers sale to Netflix, like the doom and gloom of the industry wasn't necessarily the thing on the table
Yeah, we
when
didn't know how
Disney
good we
buys
had it.
Lucasfilm. We did not know how good we had it. That's right. um and I think it's fun to be like, okay, cool. Now we get more things here. There was a lot of questions, I know, up in the air, like, okay, what does an episode 7 mean? Are they going to retcon anything? Because prequel interest was probably at its lowest at that point. Are they going to undo stuff from earlier things? Like, where does the George influence come into this? Are they going to re-release the unaltered trilogy, right? The thing that people were clamoring for a while. Um, it was an interesting time for sure, and as more and more information came out about the sale, and I think I think this was a good time. This was also a good time. I think the fandom has grown from this. Celebration reignited itself because of the Disney influence in here. Unfortunately, I think Clone Wars was arguably the biggest casualty of this sale, but then we finally got the conclusion to that pretty recently here too. So in hindsight, it worked out for everybody. We shift over to Rebels, a thing that a lot of people love and adore. And I think the initial fears that people had of Disney not being a good steward of the brand quickly subsided, and one could say arguably with the release of The Force Awakens and Star Wars Rebels preceding it too slightly by a couple of months. Really just like all the fears went away from people. There was a lot of probably some stress and trepidation, but then out the window it goes as soon as you see Star Wars Episode 7, Force Awakens, and the crawl starts going up. So yeah, let's get to that initial moment here. So we're fast forwarding 3 years, 2015 now. We're in the lead up to The Force Awakens. There were a couple of really well done trailers. Like I said, Star Wars Rebels is on Disney XD. Celebration is the center stage again. There was the Star Wars show on YouTube, reigniting interest in like all things geekdom for Star Wars at that point. All the different things were happening. The books were leading up to it. There is a whole journey of comics, all that kind of fun stuff. What are your memories of this time just before you bought tickets and then walked into the cinema in that December of 2015?
Yeah, I have really fond memories of this period. In particular, I went to Celebration in Anaheim in 2015, and it was a nice thing for, friend of the show, Greg Cass. He, we were friends, longtime friends from grad school. I had already moved to the West
Hmm.
Coast. He was still on the East Coast. I paid for his Celebration ticket as like a
That's
graduation
nice.
gift, and he came out and he, crashed on my couch. And it was a really great time. But I remember that we waited in a ridiculously long line for many hours to be able to see the teaser, and we weren't even in the actual room. We're in an overflow room, but it was still like
Wow.
just as electric. It was
That
like,
sounds majestic, yeah.
yeah, people were so excited. You could hear like a pin drop right before they started playing it, and people were gasping and cheering and emotional. We walked out of it. They shoved like a really crude looking poster at us that literally just had like a black a black stars, like space and stars background, and it in yellow text just said The Force Awakens. Like that's it. It's I still have that poster, but it's like
As you
at this
should.
point very, very ratty. And it's not like aesthetically particularly pleasing. It was clear that they just printed these quickly
It was a
to
teaser
just to give
poster,
it to
yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah. But I just remember like that there was a lot of, you know, just so much energy
Mhm, mhm.
around that, in anticipation, and celebration any year has like incredible energy to it, but this was seemed really special. And I also remember the other really long line we waited for was to see a bunch of costumes and props. That was really
Nice.
cool. Greg wanted me to make sure I shouted out that there was a line for another room that was another line. It was like we didn't even know how many chambers of line waiting were ahead of us.
That is
But
the
it was
celebration story, as we all
yep.
know, like, line upon line upon line.
Yeah, totally worth it. And then I remember, like, from a, like, merchandise perspective, this was a really fun time too, because leading up
Yeah,
to the movie, we had, like, Midnight Madness. I have my friend Anne and I remember we waited in downtown Disney, um,
very cool.
and to for a midnight release, and, like, where people, like, they let people in. We rushed the store, bought a bunch of stuff. I had this, like, kinetic sand play set that
Mm.
had from, like, it was supposed to be Jakku, and it had Rey and Finn, and I remember it just like sat in my closet for a really long time. And I was like, well, this is really cool, but I don't know what to do with it. And then once my kids were born years later, like it had a full, like, Toy Story satisfied life. And it eventually perished outside in our sandbox. Like one time I found
Wow.
it and I was like, yeah, it's probably time to
It
get rid of
served its
this now.
purpose.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I still have, like, they gave out like a lanyard. There was a lot of like to do, like a
Mhm.
lot of like kind of like to make everything feel special. There was like a lanyard that said like "There's been an awakening" that I
Yeah.
had from going to that. But yeah,
I mean, like, you're absolutely right, like, they had to, like, say, like, "We're back, baby." Throw everything against the wall. Star Wars is front and center again, everybody. This is like, we need this film to be successful. Like, this film cannot fail. We spent 4 billion on this brand. This is reigniting it for the franchise. We've got the big three back in this. We didn't know how much at that point, but we've got them back. And this film has to, it cannot, we have to make a couple billion on this thing. This has to hit the world by storm. We're in December. There's nothing else. I think Alvin and the Chipmunks was the thing competing against it. And boy, did that get lost under the sun. So they were like ready. And as you can tell from your experience, right? It's like, yeah, they were touching upon everything and just making sure that new fans, hardcore fans, everybody in between were excited and ready to buy tickets for this thing as soon as they went on sale. Now, when you were in Celebration for 2015, was that the Chewie We're Home trailer?
Yes, I believe so. It was a teaser, but that was the big thing, was that Chewie were home, and then everyone went nuts.
Yeah. How did you react to seeing that?
I remember it took me a minute to process it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um,
You're like,
because
what?
I think
Play it again.
at that point, if I remember correctly, and Greg, if you're listening to this, you can text me later with like corrections. But uh, from what I remember, that they had a panel that was mostly focused on all the new characters,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Introducing, Rey, Finn, Poe, Phasma, like, and that was kind of the showcase about it. So I remember the teaser probably being the first time anyone realized that older characters were coming back. They had
Yeah.
been pretty cagey about that up until that point, because I think Celebration was in April, right?
Yeah.
So they had it was still pretty early in terms of the marketing campaign leading up to the December release, right? So they didn't want to give too much away, but I remember that being a really big deal.
It was a big deal. I mean, I still remember like the early, not necessarily early YouTube days. YouTube was still very much a very popular thing at that point, but the early days, I would say, of like Star Wars YouTube channels and like the teaser reactions and whatnot, and people were just like sobbing after seeing Han, and that was a trailer that played frequently in cinemas all throughout that summer, which of course is the summer of like Jurassic World. So to have it in front of that, which also made 1.4 billion at the box office just preceding that, was a pretty cool thing in the lead up to this too. So a lot of eyes on that, and leading up to, I think, the Monday Night Football trailer, which
Mm.
was when tickets officially went on sale too. After that point, and then people started scarfing those up, and boy, you couldn't escape the marketing campaign that was The Force Awakens. I mean, I remember, so I was in undergrad at the time. I was just finishing up my um, first semester of my junior year. And I remember just like trying to just be good and diligent about getting my final things in, because I knew once I was done, I'm fully in Star Wars mode. I'm not getting an email from anybody until January. Like, I'm not looking at my college email address until I am fully Star Wars. But there was a little bit of, I will say, healthy stress maybe leading up to The Force Awakens, because I think there were just a lot of concerns. I'm like, oh, well, what are they going to do with this? And I think I did a good job of not spoiling myself to a lot of like the rumors and speculation that was going on at the time, right? But I'm like, are they going to do a crawl? Are they going to you do like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away? Like, these were givens at the time. um how much are they going to use the character? Are they going to acknowledge Anakin or the prequels at all? Like, I think there's a funny bit that was in Parks and Rec, when Ben Wyatt, Adam Scott's character, is getting like a massage, and they're like, why are you so stressed? And he's like, I'm just worried about episode 7.
Yes.
And I was like, that
Uh,
kind of is right. If I got a massage, I'd probably say that's my biggest stress at this point, right? Not college. It is worrying about actually episode 7 and how it's going to impact the world. um and as a fan of the prequels too, I think that was my biggest concern, is like, oh, are they going to just say like none of that was valid and had any reason, and all that stuff, not knowing how much the actual people at Lucasfilm really enjoyed and appreciated the stuff that people worked on for that. So that was my biggest concern. And then as soon as I walk into that theater, bought my ticket, ready to go, first showing Thursday night, 3D experience, because we didn't have an IMAX in Lebanon, Pennsylvania at that time. And sit in, and then boom, the film hits. All right, Jen. So take us through your first experience with the movie now. Where were you? What were your first reactions? And then how many more times did you go see the film in the subsequent weeks that followed?
So yeah, I was actually able to confirm. I was there at a 7 p.m. screening on the Thursday, December 17th. I found my ticket in my email. I was like, yes, okay, good for me. Um, and I remember that I was the one like deputized to find tickets for like my whole friend group, and so I bought I think a
Wow, that's a lot
dozen
of pressure.
tickets. Yeah, it was crazy because I think everyone was too intimidated by the idea of like the tickets selling out and like how do I get
Mhm,
them
mhm.
and like what's going on, when are they going to go on sale? And I remember we went to Sinopolis, which I don't know if is a chain that's near you, but it's like one of the sort of
The, like,
smaller
dine-in seating and, like,
luxury
whatnot?
dine-in. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it has the cushy reclining chairs. You can order a full meal that gets. It's a little bit similar to Alamo Draft House in the sense that they
Mhm.
bring food to your seat, and you know, really really nice theater. And that was where I saw in theaters when it came out every movie in the sequel trilogy
Okay,
with
great.
this with more or less the same group of people, which I like. I have really fond memories of. So I was the one who was like, "Star Wars is back! Let's go to the
We gotta go see it,
theater."
guys.
I bought the tickets, and I remember when I went and checked back in my email, I had emailed all like the friends who I knew would be interested in these tickets potentially. Gave them said, "Hey, I bought 12 tickets. I need 3 of them. First come first serve. Email me back if you want, and like you know you can send me money or whatever." And I remember there was one friend said Jen is the best. And that was the only reply,
That's
which I
all
assumed was a
that's
yes.
it.
And then um I think someone else had said like uh oh no, I maybe it was me. So someone either me or someone in the thread had sent a screenshot of eBay where people were selling the pre-sale
Reselling
tickets for
tickets.
$400.
Whoa.
$400 a
Whoa.
pop for a opening day. Yeah. So and I think I was like, "You're welcome, everyone."
Were you at all tempted to maybe scalp some of those tickets there?
No, yeah, no, I would never do that. I would rather like let a seat next to me go not go empty, but give away to a stranger outside
Mhm, mhm.
than
Okay.
to profit off of I have too much dignity.
It's very
Uh
Jedi-like of you. Yes, you chose the light side.
Uh, but I the you know, thinking about the actual experience, seeing the movie, I remember as we walked out, like it was all excitement and optimism and
Mhm.
wow, like it a whole world of possibility opened up. And I do think the thing that
Yeah.
maybe took me by surprise the most and made me happiest was the ability of The Force Awakens to introduce new characters that I wanted to see in future movies, right? Like I
Yeah.
think if you
Yeah.
had sort of pitched that to me, I would have been really skeptical, being like, "Well, I don't know. I like these other characters. Like I'm pretty attached to them.
You're like, "That's
What
why
is
I'm
like it's
here, is
going to
to
take
see
a
them
lot." Yeah.
again."
Yeah, it's going to take a lot for me to get invested in brand new characters that I think up until that point like a new character in Star Wars was kind of an unheard, you know, with some exceptions, but you know, so much of the prequel trilogy is about shading in
Yeah,
what we
it's
already
filtering through.
knew,
Yeah.
right? So I think the idea that like new characters that were unknown before was just a really exciting thing, and the fact that they cast them so well and they pulled it
Mhm.
off, I've left the theater like really happy and really excited. When's the next one coming out? Oh, we gotta wait.
I gotta wait
Right?
2 years?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think it was like the so much potential. Like it was
Agreed.
after that first one, it was so like the excitement was just like at full blast.
Yeah, excitement at top tier. How many more times did you go see it then?
You know, I could not. I didn't investigate that. It probably was a couple more times, though. I'm not like unlike Greg. I am not that good at repeat going to the theater. It's like a lot of work for me to go to the theater.
Fair
Although
enough.
while I love it, it's I'm not as dedicated as others. So I don't know. I don't actually don't know, but I'm sure I saw it at least a couple more times.
Yeah.
Um, Probably taking other friends who hadn't seen it yet to be like, you got to go see it. I'll go see it as many times as you want.
It's your excuse, yeah, to go see it again, while
Yeah,
also saying like, "Hey, you haven't seen it, let's go. Hop on board, we're going on the Star Wars train here." Yeah, and unfortunately, Letterbox wasn't a thing yet, so you can't
true.
check how many times that you logged it back in 2015. Yeah, like I was saying, I think there was some healthy stress leading up to it, but as soon as I saw the Lucasfilm logo, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the fanfare, the crawl, and then I see episode 7 and the first line, Luke Skywalker has vanished. It all went away, and I was just locked in. This film captured my imagination in ways I could never have imagined it to, and it stole my heart in many ways. The characters, seeing our old heroes again challenged and put in new positions that I hadn't seen before or could have imagined myself personally, because I think a lot of people were, so many people had first off in their minds what episode 1 would look like because of the 16-year gap between that. But this also had that same element too of, okay, I saw Return of the Jedi in the 80s and I've spent the rest of like the last 30 years now figuring out in my head what I think episode 7 would look like. Or I've read all the Legends books and materials, right? So I kind of have a sense of what that publishing line thought would happen in the events in the years after Return of the Jedi, and now I'm going to go into this with maybe new eyes and try and see if it's lives up to the expectation I had for it. So it had a lot of weight to handle, but it certainly, I think, did the best that I could in executing what it set out to do, which was reignite a Star Wars passion again for across the globe. This is a global phenomenon event. Like, you don't get to over 2 billion in ticket sales without it being a massive global success. So I saw it 3 more times. I saw it in for the first one was again Lebanon, Pennsylvania. I had a wonderful ritual of getting pizza beforehand, then standing in line. This was a wonderful. I mean, I assume your tickets at the Cinepolis were, people you had assigned seats at that point,
Yes.
but
Yep.
this is still the golden age of cinema, in my opinion, where you had to actually get there early to find the right seat. I'm not a fan of the picking seats these days. I think it's a lack of democratization. You get there first. Whoever gets there gets the best seat in the house. I will die on that hill. I've lost that battle though. Every cinema does the opposite now because they're preferred to, like, the chance that someone doesn't show up and they'll just take the money anyways. So it again, magical time. Loved it. Loved the film. Was buzzing afterwards. Saw it the next day again at the IMAX screen in Pennsylvania, in Harrisburg, and then I saw it a few weeks again later at the IMAX screen that was in Frederick, where going back to school again, it was still in the IMAX screen in Frederick, Maryland. So got to see it there again as well. And the cool thing was, because this was still a time where we had longer release dates between Blu-ray release and film release. So it was like, at that point, the window was usually about 6 to 7, 8 months, perhaps, from when the film was released to when it would be available on Blu-ray. And to my knowledge, this was probably the only time still where you could see it in an actual theater still, not even like the cheap $2 theaters that you have at rundown malls sometimes. But this one had like, I remember when the Blu-ray came out, I'm like, I could still go see it at the Regal if I wanted to down the road. Like, I don't need to have it on Blu-ray yet. I can still get my theatrical run with this, which I thought was magical and showcased the interest of this film because it lasted so much longer than other films that had come out in subsequent time between then. So great way to relaunch Star Wars back to the zeitgeist again. And let's talk about some of the goals of this film here. We kind of touched upon it a little bit here, but again, it was trying to reignite that feeling of watching the original Star Wars, the original trilogy again for all fans, new and old. How do you think J.J. Abrams was successful in this regard? Do you think he was? Maybe he was. Maybe I think you think he did. But what do you think on that one?
I think he was. I mean, I remember being actually being mixed in terms of my view of him as a director of this film, because on the
Okay.
one hand, I had enjoyed his previous work, and I liked him in general. Was a big fan of, TV shows that he was a part of, and
Okay.
all that sort of
Sure.
stuff. But the narrative in terms of the marketing in terms and press that he was a part of was very much emphasizing that this was a course correction from the prequel films. And in
Ah,
particular, the
yes.
emphasis on, well, we're not using any CG, we're only using practical effects. And it really
Practical.
seemed
Yes.
to be kind of like a,
When we're on film, we're
um,
not filming with digital.
yeah, and it almost seemed like, we understand that nobody liked the prequels, but we're not going to do any of that. We're gonna go back to what you love about the original trilogy.
Mhm, mhm.
And I remember thinking, well, like that is probably what people need to hear to be excited about a Star Wars movie. But as a fan of the prequels, I was kind of like,
Yeah, you're
hey,
like, "I like
leave
those.
leave them alone.
I saw Revenge of the Sith 10 years ago. Come on, guys."
Yeah. So I think that part of it, like I think he was ultimately successful in terms of reestablishing Star Wars in the pop culture firmament, right, and getting people back on board with it who had been kind of dismissive of it after the prequels, and so in that sense, I think it was a huge success. Like, did we really need to do that at the expense of the prequels themselves? I don't know. I still feel kind of like bitter about that, about
Yeah,
that a little
no, I
bit.
agree.
I don't know. Did you feel that way at the time?
Y- they were very aware of not saying anything prequel. Like that's kind of how I felt, but there were those trickling bits too that I'm like, oh, those are subtle jabs at the prequels. Like you're saying, oh, we're doing as much practical as possible. Okay, great. We filmed on set, on location, right? Stab at the green screen, blue screen stuff, right? We're filming with film. We're not using digital cameras for this thing. Okay, another jab at Lucas, right? Because like George didn't go to and what that famous Charlie Rove interview later on where he was called Disney the Slavers and whatnot, and um and I was like, oh, George was wrong in the words that he used, but the sentiment of being upset about what they were saying about the films that he worked on is still true and valid, I guess. Um, so I was sad about some of like the behind the scenes public relations um jockeying, so to speak, to like maybe alienate a few of the fans like us, right? That were like reading between the tea leaves there about that front. But watching some of like the behind the scenes stuff in the years afterwards and seeing, okay, he actually does like the prequels. Maybe he was just told to say some of that PR stuff on the press junket and whatnot. Um, I think, especially bringing Palpatine back and and Rise of Skywalker and using direct lines from the prequels in that film, uh, showcases a level of depth and understanding that maybe he wasn't willing to admit at that time, or at least an appreciation, maybe. So I think yeah, that was upsetting a little bit, but overall, I would say I think he did a good job in executing the film. The film has that feel of that action adventure serial. There's a lot of tip of the iceberg storytelling, which we'll talk about in a bit here, maybe to a detriment of like it launched something and then the other films had to pick that up, and then because of how successful this film was, it led to so much speculation, and then that led to other people having opinions about things, and then leading us down to this dark path that we can't follow today. um, so he launched this, and then they once they open Pandora's box, it's too late, and maybe the success is something to be talked about here because of that. So um, I think he did the best he could. This was a daunting task. I think they got a director that is respectful of the material. I can't really think of any other director at this time that maybe would have been better for this. I don't know. Um, uh, Maybe yeah, I'm not gonna name any names there, but I think he understood how to. He did the same thing with Star Trek, right, in 2009, and basically, as many people will tell you, that is Star Wars, Star Trek. So he was
Yep.
he was just waiting for the day when Star Wars would call to say, give me a Star Wars to
It
do,
was-
and so yeah, we
He's
got
like, "Here's
episode
my
7 now.
portfolio. I'm ready to go."
Exactly.
Um, and I think you touched on this a little bit in what you said just now, but I think to me the biggest achievement is the tone. I think it's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
proprietary Star Wars blend of, epic grandeur mixed with really goofy adventure.
Hmm,
And
hmm.
I remember I laughed so often when watching this movie.
It's got
I
great
still
humor.
do. When I was rewatching it for this recording, I was like, "This movie's hilarious! I'm cracking up every 5 seconds. This is great." And the idea that like, and it's so has so much verve to it too, which I
Hmm,
think is something
hmm.
I often associate with Star Wars. That like we're off an adventure. We're getting swept away on a grand adventure that we didn't think of before. Much like in the sort of Tolkien-esque way of like, be careful when you step out your door because you don't know where it's
Where are
gonna.
you gonna lead to?
Yeah. And I remember thinking, oh, it's really nailing that kind of and I think part of that is because of Harrison Ford.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
it is
think
his movie, you could say.
yeah, and I think he's interjecting a lot of that classic Han Solo humor, but I think it's
Mhm.
also the newer characters. I think they bring so much fresh life and energy, and they're playing off him, especially John Boyega, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah,
all of the notes I took this time around were about Harrison Ford and John Boyega, and I was like, they're having
they're
a great
brilliant
time.
together.
Yeah, they're really feeding off each other's energy in a great way, and so I feel like that's a thing that this could have been in trying to kind of revitalize and reset the franchise, could have gone too serious. You know, they could have tried to be
Could have,
like,
yeah.
yeah, and I don't think that would have been the right move. And so I really think that it nailed that kind of mix of like high adventure with epic storytelling.
Yeah, do you think maybe that was the Lawrence Kasdan influence on his, run on the script there? Maybe,
Yeah, that
punching
makes
it up
sense.
with a bit more of that Empire-esque humor?
Yeah. Right, and then that makes sense that Harrison Ford would then know how to deliver those lines,
And
right?
to execute it perfectly, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
Well, once this film comes out then and is in the public zeitgeist, one could argue that it led to maybe the most magical and positive time to be in this space. It led to a wonderful air of debate and speculation, and as we look towards episode 8. So first, what was your favorite theory from the time? So you had seen the movie, you'd seen it a couple times, maybe you went online, you saw a Screen Rant article or two posing a bunch of theories about things. What's took your fancy and you're like, wow, that's an interesting thing, and then where to go from there?
I don't know if this was the most interesting theory, but the one that I believed in the most was that Kylo Ren and Rey would be twins, and they would be a
Hmm.
Force dyad in a sibling way.
In a related way, a blood relation.
Right, exactly. As opposed to what ended up happening, right? And that's not to say that I was disappointed that didn't happen, but
Hmm.
at the time, thinking about what could be what could we still have yet to learn, I remember thinking, well, we're checking so many of these other kind of touch points from A New Hope and from the original trilogy. It's this trilogy seems so deliberately in sync with the original
Right,
trilogy
right.
that to me the Luke and Leia factor seemed to be is the only thing that to me was missing. And
Got
I'm
it.
like, this just makes too much sense. Like we're
So you thought
we're
Han and Leia's lost kid maybe is now resurfacing again, perhaps.
right. Yeah, that would be that we would kind of echo the revelation at some point down the road that they had been separated at birth
Mhm.
and that they've been interacting with each other all this time and not knowing, feeling very connected, but not knowing that they were in fact related brother and sister. So that was the thing that made the most sense to me in terms of a
Yeah.
theory. Um, that was the thing I remember being the most surprised when it went in a different direction. Being like, oh,
Many
okay,
ways, a couple different
well, sure,
directions.
yes.
One could say. Um, I like that. I personally was a big fan of that one too. Maybe not even just related, just like lost kid because of the events of what happened with Ben Solo and the thing. So maybe just like even with I think there's like a 10-year age gap between Kylo Ren and Rey. So maybe the event happened. They had to stow because she would be force sensitive, so they had to stow her away somewhere, and we'll come back eventually. And I'm sure you probably saw the videos of analysis of what if people like seeing the Rey and Leia hug at the end of the movie, and being
Right.
like, wow, that's not the hug that someone would give to somebody that just met them maybe 2 days before. uh,
Poor Chewie. She walks
Poor
right by
Chewie just
Chewie.
walks right by him, but he gets his medal at the
Rude.
end of Rise
That's
of
true.
Skywalker, guys. So it's all covered. And even the Han thing too, right? The way he talks to her, it almost seems like maybe
Right.
there's something more to that.
Right.
Um,
Kylo Ren says, "Oh, like when he's mind probing Rey, says, "Oh, you think of him as the father you never had.
mhm.
Guess what? You
Well,
would have been disappointed." Right?
he certainly would have been a disappointment to you. Oh, maybe Ben. Uh, I like that one a lot, and obviously we know with hindsight that didn't come to pass that way. But most theories don't necessarily come to pass in the way that we expect them to, and a lot of people were going all over the place with these types of theories, especially when it came to Supreme Leader Snoke, which is where I'm going with mine,
Oh, nice. Okay.
because I thought I was like ready to just like stand on the hill forever that he was some way a renamed reincarnate of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Like that was I was like, oh, it's the only thing that makes sense, guys. I remember being in many classrooms talking to people, because that was a big thing in the college classroom, was talking about the Force Awakens and a lot of the speculatory things about it. And I was like, he's definitely Plagueis, guys. He survived whatever attack Palpatine had on. Like he could cheat death. He's literally in the story. And that was and maybe it was just me trying to connect the prequels to it to make it more relevant to like the modern time. And like, so because especially knowing Rogue One was coming out the year later and people were already saying it's the prequel film we've always wanted, and I'm like, no, we've got the prequel films we've always wanted, guys. They're right there. They're secret masterpieces. Don't you, I'm coming for everybody. But so that was my way of saying, like, great, it's 1 through 7, got episodes 1, 2, and 3 still exist. Don't just jump in at 4, or if you jump in at 4, go back and rewatch them. Like, don't 4, 5, 6, 7 it. You gotta see what happens before. So I felt like I was just on an island there yelling at people. Old man yelling at cloud meme. And yeah, so I thought, I could have swore, I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then obviously I saw episode 7 and okay, that wasn't the case. And then our episode 9 also throws that theory out the window too a little bit there, and recenters it on what actual fact is. So that was my big takeaway theory from this. And I felt like I was kind of cool also saying at the same time too, I'm like, hey, it's this random line that Palpatine throws out there, and it's definitely him. He's got all the scars, he survived some massive attack. We're gonna figure this out in a flashback in episode 8. You guys just watch and see. And then we watched and see, and it didn't happen. So that's how we go with that one.
I can't recall, were there a lot of different candidates for who Snoke could have been? Like, was that?
Oh yeah, I mean,
because the Palpatine is the one I remember the most. But like, were there other sort of fringe theories about who he was?
Palpatine was one. Mace Windu, I remember being a very popular one. Like, so the survivor, Windu survived.
It's wild.
It's a lot of like speculatory about Windu being Snoke. Snoke was another one out there who were right during episode 8 about that one. And there was the couple theories I saw of like them being like an offspring of one of the other like if Kenobi had an offspring, right? And then he got upset about what happened and became evil because of that. I think Luke, maybe a Luke offspring or a failed student of the temple or something like that, was another theory that percolated a bit too. Other Sith Lords too, from maybe older times, Knights of the Republic, High Republic era, were also in many of those Screen Rant articles of like, here are 10 potential possibilities that it could be for Supreme Leader Snoke. Ultimately, all those did not come to pass as intended, but those were some of the top tier speculatory things. I mean, I remember there were whole like YouTube channels devoted to Snoke theories, and that was a big thing. Anywho, with all that speculation, do you think that it was like a double-edged sword, so to speak, that maybe led to many of the fandom problems that we see come to pass in later years and are still frankly dealing with today?
I don't know if you can blame it on that. Like, you know what I mean? Because part of me thinks we were probably always destined to be in this like toxic theory.
You think we were getting
like,
there?
I think we were just gonna go there anyway. I don't know how much we can actually blame that on Force Awakens theories and Snoke theories. And I might go back and blame Lost. If
Really?
I had to go through pop culture history and think about when
you're blaming JJ earlier and earlier than this.
Yep. It's
it was Alias, I tell you.
Well, so because I remember the like message boards about Lost and theories about what everything meant and how the show was so demonstrative about dropping little clues and breadcrumbs and being like, oh, what's this? And people having and then the whole purgatory, not purgatory thing. And I remember being at a panel at Comic-Con and listening to, it was a mixed panel. It wasn't just about Lost, but one of the writers from Lost or someone from the show was a part of the panel. Okay. And when they got asked about internet theories, they basically said like, internet theories ruined Lost.
Got it.
And
away
sort
the
of enjoyment
of people just like experiencing it on a week-to-week basis.
Right, and that it sort of psyched out the creators, right? He was like, the writer's room was so
Oh,
stressful
okay.
because people were reading these theories and they were like, well, like, we were already planning this. Do we have to change course or do we? And so I would say that to me is the moment where we started this problem. And then it just
Hmm.
got worse and worse. And maybe Force Awakens put it on a grander scale because it was Star Wars and it was in theaters and not television. But I think, yeah, I think that we were doomed either way. It's probably my most cynical
The
take.
nihilism, I love it. I love it. I'm going to agree with you. I think, yeah, you've swayed me on this matter because I do think that it was just a ticking time bomb waiting, like the group that was ready to pounce on this, the culture war people that we now see today, were just waiting for the opportunity to rise up, and then they saw it in Star Wars, right? So unfortunately, because of and you may we there is probably some validity to like some people using this as like a, oh well, I don't like what they did with episode 8 that they set up in that, right? Not my Luke Skywalker, that kind of whole nonsense thing. But there's a whole group of people that didn't matter what Luke Skywalker did. I don't think a lot of people actually watched The Last Jedi. I mean, we're a Last Jedi. I'm a Last Jedi defend. I will sing the praises of
Same.
that movie forever. So like we're in good company here for me to just say like I don't think some people watched the movie. I think they just like missed the point of it entirely.
Yeah, they just write articles about it and then didn't form to
They read
opinion. Yeah.
articles, they
Their
maybe,
headline, and not even articles, headlines and tweets probably
yeah,
was.
maybe they kind of watched it and just like didn't, like they can't get past it, right? Whatever inhibition that they have of like, well, my Luke Skywalker can't do that. I'm like, well, why can't he? Why are you putting barriers on this guy? It's been 30 years since Return of the Jedi. Do you know somebody that's like 60 now that was 30 years ago, and how different they might be?
And is just as chipper.
Like, do you think they haven't had any life experiences that perhaps was like their nephew destroying the Jedi Temple that they recreated and living as a myth in the galaxy that like everybody knows about and having to deal with the weight of failure? Like that would do a lot to somebody, enough to the point that they like, hey, I'm gonna vacate it out of here and we're shutting this whole Jedi system down here. Like, well, it makes sense, right? What Ryan Johnson does there totally makes sense there based off of what is set up in this movie here. Now you can argue
Yes.
if it's set up in a different way. Luke Skywalker doesn't vanish at the beginning of this, and then he's in the movie throughout and whatnot.
Right.
Or as Mark Hamill says, like when that table read, he thinks that he's gonna pick up the lightsaber at the end of the movie and fight instead of Rey. Um, you know, if he's up in the middle of the action, right, we're getting a different episode 8, but it's based off of what this movie presents, which is the journey to find Luke Skywalker. And then when we find him in his current state, which is a man that's broken. And then we have to go through that journey of rehealing and then figuring out what it means to be again. So anywho, back to my whole.
I have a quick anecdote
Okay,
to
please
go
go
with that.
ahead.
One of my most vivid teaching memories is the first day of class right after The Last Jedi has come out in theaters. And
Wow,
often
you
as
still had a day of teaching after that?
well, it was like whenever the semester started after the movie had come. You know what I mean? Like
Okay,
people
so in that
it
January
was
then.
yeah, yeah. And I remember often as an icebreaker, I have students go around, say your name, where you're from, and what was the favorite thing that you watched over break or something like that.
Got it.
And someone said The Last Jedi, and then someone else immediately piped in with like, "Nah," like the I
And
didn't
you
like
were like,
I
get
didn't
out
like
of
what
here,
they
immediate
no,
F.
Last Jedi. And I remember there was a student who stood up in his seat and pointed at this other person and said, "The Last Jedi is a perfect movie." You and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is going on?" I did not
The
mean
is in
to
front of
start
you right
a
now.
fight on the first day of class.
You're like, the internet is real. It's right. It's happening right in front of
Yep,
me.
yep. We brought it in. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I did this to all of you.
Oh my
But yeah,
god.
I remember being like, "Whoa!" Like this this trilogy it's stirring up some feelings. Like it's
It is. And maybe it's because of how like successful this film is. It doesn't give answers, and then that film gives answers. And then if some people didn't like the answers and they rebel against it and they're like, this is not my thing. And some people, and that's fine if it's not your thing, right? If you're like, hey, most people just watch a thing, and if they don't like it, they don't watch again or engage with it or talk about it, and they move on to other stuff, or they enjoy what exists that does tickle their fancy, right? And then there's another group of people that have to let their opinion be known and will always let their opinion be known, and then make it their entire personality to tell you that your opinion is wrong for liking something. It was the prequels all over again, but this felt to another degree because there was the sexism component, there was racism involved with this too. Unfortunately, that John Boyega and Kelly Marie Tran would also go through because of their experiences on The Last Jedi. And then obviously the sexism too, with Rey being quote unquote the Mary Sue character. Wow, she's only 3 weeks into learning Jedi stuff, and she can already take out all these. Like, she already defeated Kylo Ren, who was just shot by Chewie a few minutes before that battle, and he's bleeding out. Like, he's struggling in this fight. It's all right there, guys. It's the storytelling.
Adam Driver thumping his ribs
Yeah.
is something I will never forget. It's so good.
It's so cool. It's like the Henry Cavill arm,
yes.
the arm reload in Mission Impossible. But I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And he's yelling traitor too. He's just living in the moment. Great stuff. Great character work by Adam Driver in that film. But yeah, so ultimately, I think you're right. I think this was a ticking time bomb waiting to happen, and unfortunately, Star Wars was in the crosshair. But just about every franchise is now dealing with this problem. There's a small, very vocal population on the internet that has made it their personality to hate on anything that may appear to be of like a social progressive ideology. That even if on face value, if it just has like a female character or a gender swap character from something or a race swap character, they're going to rebel against it without even watching it. We can already probably name a few properties, even in the Star Wars fandom, that were quote unquote review bombed before they even had an episode air, just because of people that were working behind the scenes and the cast and crew that are part of the project and property. So it's sad that we're now at this point, but like you were saying, the seeds were being laid into the ground in the years leading up to it, which is a sad thing, unfortunately. And hopefully we're able to get out of it, but maybe we're not. Maybe it's too far gone. I don't know. The nihilist in me is not too optimistic.
I think it's just part of the scenery now.
It kind of is. We just got to fight through it, deal with it, and that's the benefit of going to a celebration, right? Is there's more of us than there are of them, and it's just nice to be in a room of people or in just in a line, frankly, because it's a lot of lines at celebration, and just like, oh, wow, people like this stuff. It isn't like your classroom setting where it's two people yelling at each other because, oh, I hate The Last Jedi. I love The Last Jedi. It's the best film ever made. I also would argue, too, because of that, it forced people on the other side to be more emboldened in their love for The Last Jedi, too. And I'm like, it's still okay to not be a perfect film, guys. It's just a movie. It can be criticized at some point, too. Like, even Rian Johnson would say, yeah, please tell me what I did wrong. All that stuff. But there are some people, they've like holding down the fort. They're like, nothing can change with this film. And then that made them, I would say, arguably not like The Rise of Skywalker because of that too, because there are they could argue maybe some of the things didn't line up with what they held on to be their full firm belief about things. So it all is a ticking time bomb of just like all the stuff. But this film gets it rolling here. It really was, I would say, like this really positive time frame. Though, do you get that same sense too of like you saw this movie and then even through Rogue One it was great, and then I would say the day before The Last Jedi airs is like that last moment of peace and serenity, and then the war starts. It's that first viewing of The Last Jedi, and then people come out of the theaters and they're already going online and talking about it.
Yeah, I think after Force Awakens comes out, I just remember looking around and being like, oh, this is the best. Everyone around me both cares about Star Wars and is excited about Star Wars and isn't hating on it. And, there's these days that's kind of rare.
It really
rare air.
I don't think I've felt it in Star Wars since, to be honest. Maybe a little bit of like Mando season 2 Luke Skywalker scene. And that was it. It's sad. I wish we could go back to it as a fandom and as just a larger nerddom community. But maybe we'll get there. I don't know. Maybe I'm not as nihilistic as I was leading on to a few moments ago. But
yeah, we really swung the pendulum. We started this episode being like pure optimism. We're back. Star Wars is back. 2015 was great, and now we're like, oh. And this is where it all began.
Oh, yes, yes. We have hit the full gambit of emotions today. And let's talk about maybe some of the criticisms of this movie here too, which I would say is arguably the biggest one, is that it's a rehash of A New Hope. What do you make of that? Do you agree with that? Is that true? And if so, is that necessarily a bad thing?
So I would say that okay, I have to preface this with like anytime I see anything Star Wars related, um, I have to kind of check myself because I'm going to be enthusiastic and excited kind of no matter what.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
it's usually sort of like after I've calmed down and had time to reflect that
Yeah.
my actual review of something kind of clicks into place. And so with this, I remember I'm going to be completely honest at the risk of my, jeopardizing my credibility.
Ooh, okay.
But I did not really think about the parallels to A New Hope at all
You
when
didn't need
when
to.
I
You were
first saw
locked
this
in.
movie. I was just like, "This is great. I love this. Let's go. I can't believe Star Wars is back." But what the second someone pointed it out to me, hey, like there are a lot of like beats that are really similar in terms of like plot points and types of
Mhm,
characters,
mhm.
and aren't we just swapping Tatooine out for Jakku? Like, like, and it's hard to unsee that. Like
Yeah.
I didn't argue with any of that once it someone would point it out to me, or once I read that first article being like, this is just a rehash of A New Hope. But at the same time, I kind of didn't care that much. I mean,
Okay.
uh because I thought it was so successful. It's like it's hard to argue with. Sure, like if I'm asked to rank all Star Wars films, which is a cruel prompt, just in case anyone's wondering. Don't ask me to
It
do
is a
that. I'll
cruel
get
prompt. I
very
don't like
stressed
when
out.
people do it. Yeah.
But I think that you know that is what, like, it loses a few points, right? So like
Yeah.
maybe I put Last Jedi before Force Awakens in a ranking because of like the originality factor. That when I grade student papers, that's what I do, right? Like the difference between an A and an A minus. An A minus might be like excellent in all fronts, but
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
largely something I've seen before. The A is like the bump for, well, you did something I've never
Mhm,
seen before,
mhm.
and I never thought about it this way, and like showing me something fresh and new.
Right.
And so yeah, I acknowledge that side of it, but in terms of my own personal experience of it, I don't think it mattered that much. And I think a very unique thing with Star Wars is this, George Lucas famously has said that Star Wars movies are like poetry, they rhyme, right?
Sure, sure.
And part of it is like the type of storytelling, like in terms of myth, that Star Wars is like that's so foundational to Star Wars storytelling. You know, myth is really just a language that can be broken down into component parts and
Mhm,
remixed.
mhm.
And there's a branch of narrative theory called structuralism, and the critics, the most famous one is Claude Levi-Strauss, like tried to kind of examine myths and stories and say like, okay, if we think of narrative as its own myths as their own language, what they ended up calling mythemes. So it's like, what's the smallest unit of meaning that a myth can have? And they sort of saw this like universal breakdown of like, well, so many stories have a call to adventure, right? And this is what Joseph Campbell
Yeah,
sort of like
yeah.
studied and then turned into his much more popular version of these theories. But so I think part of it is like that's just the kind of storytelling that Star Wars is. It is
Right.
using these mythemes and kind of rebuilding these different building blocks in different combinations with different variations, and I'm mostly okay with that.
I'm okay with it too. And sorry, folks, I was locked in on Professor Jen's lecture here, learning about all things myth here. I hope you enjoyed this little like free snippet here and didn't have to pay for a USC education. I think I got a little bit of that lecture there. It was great. Um, and I do agree with you. I ultimately don't care. That's just my opinion on the matter. I think that I agree with you in the fact that there's always going to be hints of things. It's ring theory that people also say when it comes to Star Wars, right? The first and it's like poetry, it rhymes, right? Phantom Menace also has similar trends to this film as well, and of New Hope is and it makes sense, right? Um, maybe the biggest complaint you can say is like, oh, it's a bigger Death Star, right? Star Killer Base and all that. But ultimately, I'm like, it's fine. It sets up its own story. It's a unique thing that's not exactly like Death Star 2, right? You could you could argue Return of the Jedi rehashes New Hope in a more direct way than this film does, which it's a whole other conversation to be had, and that people don't want to have, frankly, because they don't want to acknowledge it that way. Again, it's a great movie. It sets up what it needs to do. It's really about the heart of these characters and putting them in places and positions that challenge them and make us really see who they are as people and make them have great character arcs from start to finish here. And it really entices us, like you said earlier, to these three new characters, even four if you want to add Kylo Ren and whatnot into this matter too. But we got our big three now for this new trilogy, and we're set up and we're off on the races to find Luke Skywalker and where the next journey goes there. And then you could argue the Last Jedi is also like Empire, a big departure from the events of Empire. But there was actually someone that did a pretty good analysis of the Last Jedi and how it is very similar to Empire in terms of structure. So it's all there, folks. It's if you really want to, you'll find it. And if it bothers you, it bothers you. I can't stop that for you. But if you want to have fun with it and just engage with the cool reintroduction of Star Wars to the world again, then it's also there for you too. So it's all on the table.
I like to think of it as a genre like and this is probably because I just came from talking about the new Knives Out movie, but if you think about the mechanics of genre, a very traditional murder mystery has basically the same components. They're just kind of reskinned in different ways.
Exactly.
And for some, the people who are fans of that and aren't kind of like, oh, this is the same thing I've seen every time. That is the pleasure of it, right? Is that you're like, it's the familiarity and the sort of like, oh, I recognize that's this part of this plot. And then now we're going to get the detective, and now we're gonna get the and so I do think that it that is the closest comp that I can think of in terms of like people still enjoy traditional whodunits.
They do, and they will forever,
even though they're
people enjoy
the same thing over and over again.
People enjoy murder mystery. People enjoy science action adventure, coming of age stories, which is what these are. And I think someone has said before, there's only really 7 stories that exist out there. We're all just rehashing or revamping and remixing in some way, shape, or form the derivatives of those exact stories. And that's kind of all storytelling is. And we just find the elements that work for us and we celebrate those to a large degree. Star Wars just happens to hit upon everybody's most likely anybody's fancy because of a lot of the Campbellism that we always talk about and can come back to when it comes to this. So it's great. Ending on a positive note here, Jen, I want to know about what are your favorite moments in this movie. Feel free to list and celebrate any and all that you can think of.
It was actually really hard to narrow this down. I just kept thinking of more.
You don't need to know. Just list the whole movie if you
all
really
right, sure.
to.
So I mean,
love
like
that it shows Jakku at the beginning and the lightsaber and whatnot. Yep, all of that.
Cut to no. I think that as I mentioned earlier, most of anything Harrison Ford is doing in here, I absolutely adore. Like, it's the way he calls Finn "big deal," and
listen, big deal,
and his my favorite line. That's not how the Force works. It's just so funny. I really love Finn taunting Phasma when he's like, "I'm in charge now. I'm in charge."
Yep. You got a trash compactor.
Funny. Yes, like to me, that's like that. There's a through line there in terms of the humor that I really love. Just John Boyega's like look on his face where he's like, "Oh yeah, like there's a trash compactor. I know where that is." I would say Rey's theme. And the associated scene introducing her as a character. I mean, the Rey's theme is still like one of my all-time favorite John Williams tracks.
Agreed.
It's so good. So memorable. The second I hear it, just those little notes like any good, foundational Star Wars theme, it brings me right back to the character and to that first scene where we meet her, Maz Kanata saying like, "I like that Wookiee." So funny. And actually just everything. I think if you had described the Maz Kanata section of this movie to me, on paper, I would be like, are we sure about that? That sounds
Mhm,
weird.
mhm, mhm.
But I think in the moment and with all of the characters kind of reacting to it, I think it absolutely works. Like her crawling across the table and like making her goggles
The goggles
bigger.
go big, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's that perfect mix of like it feels mystical and wondrous, but at the same time very funny and goofy and weird, as all good Star Wars is. Um, uh, and then like I really like the rapport between Rey and Han, especially in those earlier scenes where they're just kind of getting to know each other, and in particular when Rey pops up and says, "I bypassed the compressor."
She has that smile on her face of just pure
Yeah, she's like,
joy.
"I did it." Like a cat bringing a mouse to an owner, be like, "Look what I did! Look what I did!" And then Han's reaction, where he just kind of like he doesn't say anything, and he just looks at her. He's like, "Huh," and you can tell that he like is very begrudgingly starting to like her
Mhm.
and
In his
be
own
impressed
Han
by
way,
her.
yeah.
Yeah, which is great. What else do I have in here? I'm a huge droid fan, and so just everything with BB-8. BB-8 unsung hero of this movie.
It really
We
is.
don't talk about him enough. I think he's making it happen, and he doesn't want any credit for it. It's great, and especially that scene where they make the map,
Mhm, mhm.
and we've got
It's an epic
R2
moment,
projecting the
everyone's
map.
fist pumping with the map,
So
yeah.
good. And he just comes along. He's like, I got my little puzzle piece. Here you go. And it's such a great metaphor for the movie as well, right? Because
Yeah.
there's this huge galaxy that this movie has to kind of try to insert itself into and become a small piece in a big puzzle.
Yes, exactly.
And it fits perfectly, right? Um and then finally, like I love the scene where Rey is using Jedi mind trick on the stormtrooper
Daniel
to
Craig too.
escape, and the fact that it's Daniel Craig just makes it like just that's just frosting on the cake. It's beautiful. And and like every time I hear it now, I'm like, that is why did anyone not think this was Daniel Craig? Like it's 100% his voice. Like how did we miss this? Like who was to blame for us not realizing this immediately? Um, and yeah, that's my list. I'm sure there could be a lot more, but I was
I was
like,
about to say, you
how
could
many
list the
things
entire
to
film here. Like, you just go beat by beat of cool things that happen in this movie and be like, yeah, I love all of it. So we're going to start from the beginning. There's a thing called a crawl, and it says episode 7, and Luke Skywalker has vanished, and the fledgling Republic is supporting this thing called a resistance against the first Star. You could have done all that, and it would have been perfectly fine too. But this list was fantastic that you shared too. Like J.J. Abrams gave to the advice to Ryan Johnson, you cannot use enough BB-8. That guy is the star of this, and you're right. We do not give BB-8 enough credit for being the ultimate hero that he actually is. He, she, they. I don't think we really give a
Oh.
full gender assignment to them. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I do love the thumbs up. I think that's one of the most whimsical
Yeah.
moments in Star Wars. You could argue. Um, and
I have
yeah,
that Funko Pop.
ball, right, when he just calls him move ball. Harrison
So
Ford
good.
is the best with that one. And um just seeing Poe's face when he like sees that he's still like BB-8 still alive, he's like, buddy,
Oh.
oh, it's so great.
Oh yeah, wait, why wasn't Oscar Isaac on this list? That's a
That's
failure on
right.
my
That's
part.
right. Frankenstein himself,
Yep.
Victor. And yeah, you could. I was about to say too, with the Daniel Craig of it all. It's like, man, you just. Of course, we are thinking like, yeah, it's Daniel Craig's voice there, but I'm struggling in a post Wake Up Dead Man to not hear Benoit Blanc's voice in and anytime Daniel
That's
Craig
true.
speaks there,
I
like.
mean, the accent is so different that for me that's hard to confuse, but
Like I've seen some Bond clips over the last couple of days, and I'm like, that's not that man that talks in this drawl here. He's not Scooby doing this. So
that's not dapper Foghorn Leghorn. Like, what
yeah,
are we doing?
yeah, that's not him just with his cool suave hair and wonderful suits that he has on. Like, and good sense of fashion across all of those movies too. But I digress. Daniel Craig, wonderful having him in this movie. I did like that. Like there was a brief moment where fandom thought that Tom Cruise was the traitor droid, not droid, but stormtrooper. And for a second, I'm like, yes, bring Tom is in this movie. I believe it. I think Kevin Smith is in this movie for like as a one of the voices in Starkiller Base as like the PA system, which I think is a neat little Easter egg there. I will just say for my own money here, just to add into this, I love the Maz Kanata sequence. We named our dog Maz after the wonderful space
Aw.
pirate. So we got a little Mozzie roaming around the house somewhere here. But also, I do love that like that's the introduction to the Skywalker family blade, the legacy lightsaber blade that is calling to Rey. We get that wonderful flashback vision of all these horrendous things that have happened across the galaxy over the last couple of years, and we even get to hear both Alec Guinness saying Rey,
Yeah.
and then also the Ewan McGregor getting in there to add this like, okay, the prequels still matter, guys. Ewan McGregor is in here as Obi-Wan Kenobi saying these are your first steps, and it was, I felt truly vindicated about all of my trepidation and fear of worrying that maybe the prequels won't be acknowledged in this film enough. They did say about Clone Army, so there was something to that degree there, but to actually have Ewan, an actor that was in those movies, a part of this, really made me feel warm and welcome.
I was gonna ask, how many times did you rewind that and replay it with the captions on to figure out exactly who's saying that? What are they saying? What?
Fortunately, by that point, by the time of the Blu-ray had come out, there'd been enough analysis of the movie
Oh,
that
that's true.
people could have. And I think Ewan also was like interviewed like 2 days afterwards. And he was like, "Yeah, I was in that movie. I drove my motorcycle down to Skywalker Sound or something like that, and then did it quickly, and I walked out within
Was that
five
when he was
minutes."
doing his motorcycle
Yes, it was.
travel
Yes.
show?
Yep.
Oh, that's crazy.
It was all at the
I
same
forgot
time.
about
He
that.
just kind of just strolled into to the ranch over there and just did his quick recording. But yeah, that was it. Now that's the Force Awakens, man. This movie rocks. I again, a great way to reignite Star Wars fandom, and we're still riding the high off of it in many ways. And we're excited that many of these characters still have a legacy at Lucasfilm. Right, the Rey movie is maybe around the corner one of these days. We're getting Starfighter next not this May, but in 2 Mays, and maybe that's post episode 9. Maybe we'll get something somehow involving one of these wonderful beloved characters. Could be, um, and maybe the Hunt for Ben Solo film that was kind of in the zeitgeist the last couple of weeks. Maybe with some Disney leadership changes in the coming weeks and enough people talking about it online, and with enough of those. I don't know if you're in the Southern California area. Did you see the planes flying overhead that went over the Disney lot that said "Make the Hunt for Ben Solo"
Oh,
the
wow. No,
last
I
couple of
missed
weeks?
that. I missed that, but I was gonna say, like, the Make Solo 2 happen folks haven't gotten much traction, so I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
I
not
know.
gonna hold my breath necessarily. But what I will say is, if you were craving more sequel trilogy era content, a lot of the comics that have come out over the years have been fantastic. There was a run where we got to read the backstory of Poe's parents.
Yes.
I really
Yes.
like that one.
Yeah.
And there's a lot with the sort of squadron. Um, so yeah, that if you're looking for consolation, that's what I.
That's right. Ancillary
That's what I
Canon
would
has
say.
really done a great job. And that
Yeah,
Poe Dameron comic series too.
yeah.
All 30 issues, I think, were really solid too back in the day when this was all happening, and even when we were like looking for some of that like post Last Jedi story beats. Like there was some information in that one too that was really cool. So yeah, that is The Force Awakens. That's our look back at The Force Awakens. Jen, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your memories and your thoughts on the movie and all that stuff. Where can the folks find you if they want to continue the conversation or to check out the long take review? As I know it's getting into Oscar season or just award season in general. I know
Yeah, we're in the thick of it.
Critics' Choice, January 4th. Very soon after that, January 16th, Golden Globes. The Golden Globe announcements just happened a few days ago at this point, and now you guys are doing a quick rush to cover all the films that have been announced to make sure, because those are usually be the springboard to what's the maybe the 10 for Best Picture nominees. But where
Yeah,
can the
this is
folks
the
find
time.
you?
Yeah, yes, the time of year where we feel the most behind because it's like we
And then
don't get to
February
see
hits,
movies
you're like,
early
what?
as much. Yeah, it's like, oh, all the movies came out, and then we were too busy over the holidays. So yes, you can find me mostly at the Long Take Review, where you can find wherever you get your podcasts. It is For College Professors Talk Film is our tagline, and we just put out recently, just today, our review of Wicked for Good came out. We just last week put out a reactions to the Golden Globe nominations, which was really fun. We just recorded this week and are hoping to kind of release in the next couple of weeks an episode about Hamnet, which is a really strong Oscar contender, and then also as we already referenced in this episode, Wake Up Dead Man, which is on Netflix now. So lots of good content, more to come. Greg talked me into buying the Marty Supreme Wheaties box.
He got you too in it.
Yep. Finally, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. He was like, well, if you join the A24 club, you can buy the Wheaties box. And I was like, fine.
You were looking into it anyways, and that was just the next thing that was like, okay, I can get the Wheaties box. This is really going to drive me to get this next level here, guys. Very cool. Well, Jen, this has been a blast having you on. And folks, thank you for celebrating The Force Awakens 10th anniversary with us. Guess what? If you like this conversation, we're going to have another Force Awakens 10th anniversary conversation next week with Colby Mead from the Colby cast coming on to chat about his memories and experiences with this movie too. So gear up for that. Hope you're enjoying the holiday season, because we certainly are here at Force Ghost Conversations. And until then, may the Force be with you. Take care.